Hi, shalom friends. Did you ever play the game Word Associations? If you did, you could learn a lot about the person. For example, if you talk to your child and you say, when I say school, what do you think of? And he says, prison. You say, when I say teacher, what do you think of? Boring. I guess you don't have to be a rocket science to know that your kid doesn't really like school. On the other hand, if you said school and he said exciting, teacher, awesome, wow, you're way ahead of the game. Essentially, associations bring out many, many different ideas. And I could go through a long list, but I'm sure you could do it the same. So I'll go straight to the heart of what I'm going to talk about. I say the word wine. What comes to mind? Wine. Some would say drunk. Some will say wine, elegance. But I could tell you one word which I know you would not associate. And that's the word holiness. And it sounds so odd when I'm saying it now. Wine, the association of wine is holiness? Come on, what are you talking about? And yet, every Jew that observes the Sabbath is so comfortable with this idea because every Friday night and every holiday begins with a cup of wine, and we actually call it in Hebrew Kiddush, which literally means sanctification / holiness. So now, in the word association, you say wine, you think holiness. And you say, Rabbi, could you please explain how could that be? Well, when we take a look at wine, which is really an ancient beverage, we find in Tanakh, in Scripture, a wonderful insight. The insight is, wine is described as a beverage that makes God happy and man happy. How does it make God happy? Well, in the Holy Temple, people brought offerings and gifts to God. We call it a sacrifice, or in Hebrew, a korban. And every community sacrifice included a libation. They would pour out a certain amount of wine on the altar. And when God received the offerings from his people, he was filled with joy. So wine brings joy to God, because it was poured out on the altar. And certainly, wine brings joy to man. A good bottle of wine amongst people often brings out a really warm and a close feeling. So now we have wine is special, because not only does it relax man and bring comfort or joy to man, but it brings joy to God. But that actually begs the question, why is it that wine has that quality of bringing joy not only to man, but even to God? Well, here in the mystical tradition, they point out a very interesting observation about wine. Wine comes from grapes, and yet, if you ate 20 pounds of grapes, all you would feel is a stomach ache. You would not get intoxicated. But if you squeeze those 20 pounds of grapes and you let it ferment, you might have a delightful beverage that will put you in a very agreeable mood. So where is the wine? It's in the grape, and yet, while it's in the grape, we could say it's the potential of wine, or we could use another word. Wine is hidden in the grape. So the concept of wine means what is hidden, concealed, and perhaps a touch of mystery. Wine means that this beverage, which was mysterious and concealed, became revealed. Now, there is another beverage similar to that, which is oil, but it doesn't bring the same joy and buzz that a wine does. So we'll focus for a moment just on wine. In Hebrew, the expression is nichnas yayin. When a person drinks, yotza sod, what was concealed becomes revealed. Basically, to translate this in the vernacular, if you want to get close to a person and you have a nice dinner with wine, very often the stiffness goes away through the wine. And good friends, when they drink wine together, they share. They open up some of what is hidden and concealed behind the facade of of indifference or sophistication becomes revealed through wine. Why does wine have that ability? Because the very essence of wine is something that was concealed that now became revealed. Let's try to approach this from a slightly different angle. Okay, what are we talking about? Wine, and why wine is synonymous in many ways to holiness. So the first idea that I'm presenting to you is wine reveals what is hidden, because wine itself is a revelation of what is hidden. But let's perhaps go a bit further and look at the way grapes grow. A cluster of grapes. To the best of my knowledge, no one has ever crushed one grape to make wine. Basically, to make wine, you have to take many clusters of grapes, many groups of grapes, and crush them together. Now, apples and oranges, pears and lemons all grow separately, but grapes grow together. And now, in order to get the wine from this group of grapes that are growing together in companionship, you crush them. And when you crush them, out comes a beverage. Would it be wrong to suggest that perhaps this is a symbol of the unity of the Jewish people? That Jewish people are compared to a vine, because no Jew grows in isolation. We are all part of a greater community. And heaven forbid, if there's ever a distress of one Jew, A, it is felt by all, and B, very often the distress of one Jew doesn't stay with that one Jew. It's a community, because one Jew, in a sense, is the entire Jewish community. So let's be poetic for a moment. We start off with Friday night pouring a cup of wine. This cup of wine was a group of grapes that were willingly or unwillingly were crushed together to produce a beverage. Every Jew, when it comes Friday night, says, deep down, what am I? And every Jew will say, what am I? I'm a Jew. I am a part of the Jewish continuum. I'm a part of the Jewish community. I am part of the Jewish collective soul. And essentially, each Jew feels both the heartbreak and the exhilaration of a fellow Jew. And this is both consciously and subconsciously. And perhaps that's why it's called Kiddush, holy. And that's why perhaps we could say it brings joy to God. Because when God sees his children growing together, at times being crushed together, but producing a beverage together, this causes him great joy, as if to say, a father would see how a family bands together to help each other both in times of joy and in times of distress. So let's go back. Wine, elegance, yes. Wine, pleasure, very yes. Wine, holiness, yes. Wine is holy, because wine comes from that cluster of grapes, which symbolizes the unity of a people, and it symbolizes that within the external part, looking at the external part, there's actually a wonderful beverage that's waiting to emerge. But beyond the surface of every Jewish exterior lies a heart and a soul filled with goodness, filled with sweetness, and filled with exquisite beauty. So, my friends, next time you take a cup of wine, l'chaim, shalom.